Hello and welcome to another episode of the Live Thrivingly podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Hall, and I'm super excited to have you here today. Wherever you are in the world, I invite you to pause, take a breath, and tune in as we illuminate stories and perspectives that explore what it means to truly thrive. This season, we continue our journey, part of the larger Live Thrivingly project, to unpack the human condition, celebrate cultural insights, and share interpretations of life from voices across the globe. From personal awakenings to ancestral wisdom, from daily rituals to paradigm-shifting ideas, we're here to explore what it truly means to live thrivingly, with depth, presence, and a devotion to restoring wholeness in our lives and communities.
Today's guest is a breathwork and meditation facilitator, intuitive healer, and founder of the Embody, a virtual wellness studio and app designed to help people like you reconnect with their bodies, regulate their nervous systems, and move through life with grounded confidence. With certifications in breathwork, holy fire Reiki, intuitive tarot, and mat Pilates, today's guest fuses ancient tools with modern expression, making practices like breathwork and energy healing accessible. Through private sessions, group classes, and digital programs, she helps people move through their emotional blocks and step fully into the most embodied version of themselves. Emily Dewberry's mission is to break the mold of what wellness should look like and remind people that softness, power, and joy can all exist in the same breath. Hey, Emily, thank you so much for joining us on the Live Thrivingly podcast today. So happy to have you here.
Oh my God, same. It is such a gift to be able to do this with you. And I mean, just our connection from a few weeks ago to now, it's been just so fun to be able to do this. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. What Emily was talking about was the other day we met at our friend Hannah Donahoe's chiropractic studio called The Source Chiropractic, where once a month she hosts Source Saturday, where local people come together. And Emily actually led a mat Pilates class for us, and it was super fun, but also so challenging. So she really challenged us all that day.
I know, it was so fun. It's so fun to be able to do small community events like that, because you never know when mat Pilates is kind of shown. It's like, I have no idea what I'm going to get these days. And it was very low impact, but I was like, we love a little struggle first thing in the morning.
I was there for it. It was really nice. And then you had a nice kind of ending to it, and kind of with a little restorative piece, I felt like at the end, which was super nice to prime me for the rest of my Saturday. So thanks again for that. And it was super nice connecting with you. And we just kind of shared a little bit about our journeys, I know. And you had an app that had recently come out, and you've got a lot more things in the works. If you want to share a little bit more about what's been going on since the app launch, and a little bit about the app itself as well.
Yeah, definitely. So the app that we're kind of talking about, I own a company called the Embody Edit. So trying to edit and adjust your life so that you can truly embody who you are actually meant to be, not what society kind of puts on you or tells you, or whatever stories you feel like you should. So essentially this app is a whole kind of collaboration of the teachings that I have really studied over the past 5 years or so, which is breathwork, meditation, not Pilates, but really mindful, intentional movement. And I also have Reiki and tarot and things like that. So we go in the spiritual realm, but I don't necessarily lead with that, because sometimes it can get a little spooky to some people. But the breathwork and the meditation is my core value. And that's kind of has been my leading kind of entrepreneurship journey, just to bring just a groundedness to who you are and where you're going. And so this app is an on-demand platform where you can be able to really find that in your day-to-day life. So it's been a little crazy with the app launching. It's been great. I've been doing a lot of pop-ups recently. I have gone to Houston to do my app launch pop-up. I've gone to LA. I've gone to Chicago. So it's been a really full season, but it's been a really good season to be able to initiate the kind of summer travel season, but now get into a more grounded routine now that we're kind of moving back into not the fall just yet, but coming.
Definitely on the horizon. We're in Texas here, where it gets pretty hot. It hasn't been as hot as previous summers, but fall is always a welcome sight around here.
I totally agree.
Yeah, so wow, I mean, in application, I think it's something that a lot of people would love to do, or maybe it's kind of a goal of theirs in their life, like, oh, have an app on the App Store and stuff. But I'm sure it was not without its tremendous amount of hard work and late nights and tears and all those things going into building this. But how amazing to have that out in the world and have created that, and with the ultimate goal of really helping other individuals where they're at.
No, definitely. What really holistically brought me to making that decision of doing an app, because at the end of the day, like, do we need one more app on our phone? I don't know. But over the past couple of years, I've been working with hundreds, if not thousands of people over my past 5 years of doing this work, especially when it comes to breath work and meditation as well. But I've worked at a lot of different studios in town. I've done a lot of online things. But I realized that a lot of the biggest impact that we can have with our day-to-day life is, okay, I need something now and I need a quick fix, which I don't necessarily believe in quick fixes, because there isn't like a pill that's going to fix anything or one answer that fits all for everything. But the one thing I can and do know is that our breath is literally connected to everything that we do. It's connected to our nervous system, our vagus nerve, the part of the body that controls our day-to-day stress. And if we can control our breath, I'm a firm believer that we can control our life. And so being able to have clients reach out to me saying, okay, I was in massive traffic, I pulled over, I did a 3-minute breath work with you, and I was able to calm myself down and move through the rest of my day. And for me, that is it. Of I don't have to pay $30 per class. I don't have to sit in traffic and to run to be in community. If I don't have the time, I can still do the practices that I want to do. And that's what ultimately kind of pushed me to do the app, because at the end of the day, when we need those things, those moments to calm ourselves down, it's like, oh my God, I have this tool. Why don't I use it? So that's kind of what brought me to it. But it's been, yeah, definitely like a lot of late nights, a lot of tears, a lot of frustrations. It's so easy for a lot of us to say, like, look at the things that are going so well. Look at all the beautiful things. And it's like, ooh, like the story behind it is definitely the hardships of like what brought us to where we are. But that's what makes it beautiful, right?
Absolutely. And pushing through those creative battles internally to birth a creation as such is a really amazing journey to go through, and definitely kind of is that hero's journey that you kind of spoke about a little bit, about some of the themes that'll be a part of your podcast, that hero's arc, and how we explore that individually in our lives. And I believe that we go on many of these hero's journey cycles in our life, and there's definitely the main one of our life, but then there's kind of some microcosms within the macrocosm of the hero's journey. But what a rewarding process to go through. And I have kind of a question that I wanted to get your feedback on, was when people say they don't have time to meditate, what's your most sarcastic comeback?
Well, do you have time to do anything?
Yeah.
It's so funny because for me, I feel like there is definitely over the past couple of years, I want to say since the pandemic, I will say people have been a lot more open to meditation, and there is a trend of it coming, which I think is incredible. Like, health and wellness is actually important to people now, because we've been aware of, if things affect our mental health, then like we actually have to do something about it now, not only just our physical health. But what I think is fascinating is that meditation, I feel like sometimes has a stigma of like, you have to sit down in a corner in a quiet space and you have to clear your mind. To me, meditation, that's a goal, but like, you can sit and do a meditation practice for years and never clear your mind. So to me, that's why the breath work portion is so important to me. And a lot of times people bring breath work and meditation and bring it together, which is great, because the breath is, can be an additive to meditation. But to me, with all the different schools of thought and studies that I've done over the past couple of years with so many different teachers, what I have kind of come to with my school of thought is that if you literally don't have your breath, you don't have anything. And if you go throughout your life and you're chatting with people, or you have conversations, Or even when you're working out, your breath is always shifting. If you get excited about something, you're going to quicken your breath. If you're running a long distance marathon, your breath is going to shift and change depending on how your body's feeling. Now, if you feel really calm, very just grounded with someone, your breath is probably going to slow. Your body's going to probably slow down. Now, when it comes to the breath, if we can control that, then once again, like I mentioned, we can control everything. But the meditation aspect is, I truly believe everything's a meditation. Cooking with friends is a meditation. Being with a partner can be meditation. Anything that you do intentionally can be a meditation. And so I always like to say to my clients, if you don't have the time, what are you doing on a morning commute if you have one? What are you doing in your morning routine if you have one? What are you doing before you get on a call? Are you rushing? Are you running? Now, to me, meditation can be closing your eyes down, literally in your car before you walk into work or before you hop on that first call of the day, taking a few rounds of breath, and that's it. What does that take? Maybe 15 seconds, if that.
I love that approach. I think it's super practical for all of us out there, and it creates kind of a sustainable way to get into it. But you're right. We often grow up thinking about meditation or hearing about it until rather recently, more people really explaining and kind of using different vernacular around it. Like meditation can be many things, like you said, hanging out with a partner or cooking, or maybe an activity you love, an active meditation, rather than just kind of the monastic practice of meditation tied to many like religious beliefs. But yeah, I completely agree. And I love the fact that you bring in the breath with the meditation, because in my own life, I feel when I do get connected to my breath or I do my breath work, I just drop into kind of a naturally meditative state. Maybe I kind of drop into that alpha brain state. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not like I'm necessarily trying that hard. And I've met many people, I know you have as well, that are like, I can't meditate, I can't clear my mind. And then when I've told them, what if what if it doesn't matter if you clear your mind or not? And then they
Mm-hmm.
drop in and then they come out of it, like maybe out of a sound bath or something. And they're like, wow, like that's the first time I ever felt like I've just been kind of weightless. And I was like, yeah, because you release that attachment on what you think you should be feeling or should be doing, and you just let yourself be in that moment.
No, and I totally agree with you. And I feel like I've been having a lot of conversations recently. Um, I just did my first guest episode for my podcast, and the whole through line was like, why are we talking about the shoulds or the have tos of life? And there's so much noise that is happening around life. So the goal for me is like, how can we kind of block that noise out, even if it's just for a few seconds, knowing that if I don't have the 30 minutes to run to a class or have literally 30 minutes to sit down, because some days you don't have that, like the responsibilities we have in life, we don't. Some days we do, but we prioritize other things before ourselves a lot of the times. But how can we take just a few minutes of connecting to our breath and then realizing, oh, wow, maybe I actually do have more time than I think I do? Or am I actually doing the things that I want to do? Am I spending my time in the way that I want to spend my time? Or am I doing things because I feel like I should or because I have to? So it's really funny how that should and have to comes into different aspects of our life. I think it's just fascinating to me.
It really is. Yeah, I'd love to know a little bit more kind of behind your life story. What was growing up like for you, and how did you end up kind of walking the path you are today and diving into all of these different practices you've studied?
Yeah. It's really funny. I kind of have like a joke that's probably not that great of a joke that I tell people, like whether it's like new clients or people that I know that I'm going to start working with for a lot. It's, if you told me 5 or 6 years ago I would be doing this, I would have probably slapped you in the face. Like, yes, but no. This was something that truly came to me over the past 5 years. I was not searching for it. Now, I'm so lucky to be very, I want to say privileged growing up in Dallas, Texas. I like had a beautiful family, had a really great upbringing. Like went to the traditional route of going to a big state school in Texas, like just like the things that I should do. And I ended up going to college and then realizing I didn't want to go to med school because I thought I wanted to help people. And so in my thought process, the only way I could help people is physically, because that was my route of growing up playing sports. And I thought I was going to go the college sports route, and then had a big injury and spent a lot of time in hospitals really trying to figure out what was going on with me health wise. And so then I was like, well, I'm going to be a doctor, of course. And then I went into my Chem 101 class and I was like, oh, this is how it goes. Oh, do I really actually like this enough? And I was like, this is not it. And so I hopped around in a lot of different kind of majors and things like that. Ended up being a double major in political science and English, because I was like, oh, I love politics. I love reading. I love just connecting with people. And then I was like, do I want to go the political route? No. Do I want to be a lawyer? No. Do I love confrontation? No. Okay. So what do we do now? I ended up being a corporate recruiter for a few years in Houston, and then I worked corporate events, and I loved that lifestyle, because in my early 20s when I graduated, I was like so energetic. I was like not connected to anything. I didn't have like many responsibilities besides like my rent, obviously. I was so lucky for that. And so I was living in Houston, doing the corporate events, working 60, 70, almost 80 hours a week, doing really late nights, eating catering food at 1 a.m, doing setups and breakdowns at 6 a.m, big tents, big weddings, big social events, big corporate events. And it was incredible. And then the pandemic hit, and every single event was canceled almost overnight. And then people were getting married in their backyards with 20 people versus me doing 4, 5, 6, 7, over 1,000 people events. And people were asking for help. And I was like, I can't really help you. I don't know how to do events of this small size. And it kind of brought me back to Dallas. And I was navigating like, what do I want to do next? Because when I was in Houston, on the outside, I was living this like very ideal lifestyle, the typical lifestyle that would be the flashy job, the exciting events, all the things, and technically had everything on the outside. But I had never been so miserable in my entire life. My health was taking a huge turn. I had gained a good amount of weight to where I was not feeling supportive in my day-to-day life. And during that time, I was really struggling to find myself. And in Houston, there was a gym that I went to very consistently, and the personal trainers, as well as the class fitness instructors, were like the only things that were giving me energy and support during that time, like on the back end of things. When on the front end, everything looked perfect for the most part. So I get back to Dallas during the pandemic because I didn't know what I was going to do next. And a girlfriend of mine was like, hey, you should try this meditation thing. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I've never really done that before. Like, I don't think so. And then a couple weeks later, she was like, hey, I have this breathwork thing. And I was like, girl, you're really pushing this stuff on me. Like, I don't know. And she was like, can you just try this breathwork thing for me? If you're not going to do the meditation thing, can you try breathwork? And I was like, fine. I don't even know what you're talking about. And back in 2020, there was no breathwork in Dallas. So I did this virtually. And of course, during the pandemic, everything was virtual at this point. And so I go online with this crazy guy. He had hundreds of people on this call. His name was John Paul Creamy, and he is one of my mentors that I'm so lucky to say. And I did a breathwork session, and it was wild. It was a conscious connected breath. It was a very active breath. I've never done anything like that at the time in 2020. And the call ended, and I was out for hours. I woke up. It was like I woke up and I was like, I don't know where I am, what day it is, what planet I'm on. But my body was so rested, and I hadn't felt that grounded in like years. Like, I don't remember the last time. And I was like, okay. So I call up my girlfriend and I was like, okay, there's something to this. I don't know what just happened, but like, I need to do that again. And so I started doing these classes, and then another girlfriend of mine, she reached out and she was doing this meditation teacher training. And I was like, why not? Like, I have the time. I'd saved up a lot of money, luckily. So I was like, let's just go into this. I need to help myself. My mental health wasn't that great. And so I started doing things and started connecting with more people. And then that brought me Reiki, and then that brought me tarot, and that brought me more breath work. And then it all just kind of like kerfluffled into me teaching this in Dallas. And there was a company or a studio that reached out to me, connected. And at the time, there were no breathwork classes in the DFW area on a regular weekly schedule. And I was like, wait, you're a breathing and meditation studio and there's no breath work. This is bizarre. So I started teaching breath work there, and that kind of was the initiation of me bringing that to Dallas. And I mean, that was 2021. And now four years later, almost five, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, it's just been a crazy journey. So very long-winded way of saying anything is possible when you follow your core, your gut, and you listen to the people that are around you that know you. Because if I didn't follow that natural course of finally listening to like my close friends that were like, hey, I think you should try this, I would have never touched it. Because at the time I was open-minded, but not open-minded to those things. Just growing up from a more conservative background here in Texas. I mean, I've always been a Texas girl. So now here we are, and it's a wild ride.
Wow. I appreciate your vulnerability and really sharing so much about your journey and kind of how you got to where you are now. Yeah, what a wild ride. And you've really got to see, I feel like around 2020 was a huge awakening for everybody during COVID in general, of just kind of opening their eyes to, you know, conventional healthcare and just in general, kind of a time to sort out things with yourself, things with your communities and families, and maybe find something that resonates more in that challenging time. And I think, although it was challenging and dark for some periods of time and more so for maybe some other people than others, but we came out of that, I think, all stronger and with a with a more with a deeper connection to what we're capable of. I think since that, especially with the rise of popularity of these holistic practices on social media and people just genuinely wanting to feel better and finally like listening to the kind of crazy friend that was telling you to do cold plunges and breath work and meditation and stuff. I remember when I kind of started getting into this was around 2020, 2021, and all my friends were like, man, you're kind of going off the deep end here. And then now they're like, dude, everybody's doing it online. And so there is that rising popularity. And I know we spoke about that, which is awesome, but there's also some precautions there as well.
And I remember, I mean, when we talked a few weeks ago just about doing this, that was a conversation that we really connected on of like, we were probably one of the first few people in the community that we knew, especially like locally here in the South, of like doing these things. And now it's like trendy and like everyone wants to do it. And it's like, whoa, 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 there's so many people doing this now too. And you got to find like who fits you best as well, and listening to the science and the backgrounds of people that really align with you rather than just like doing it for the trend and being like, okay, we'll figure it out later.
Absolutely. Because I came to all of this through a very dark period and from true desperation. And everyone comes to
Mm-hmm.
these things in different ways, and no one's journey is better or worse for that. But if you're just getting into some of these practices and stuff at kind of a surface level, sometimes if you're not interested enough or truly motivated enough to really kind of understand the deep roots with a lot of reverence and respect, it can kind of get watered down. And there's individuals out there's plenty of bad actors and things that are maybe overcharging for things, making things more inaccessible. So it's part of our own journeys to kind of navigate that. And I'm sure you had your fair share of people you probably spent money with that you maybe didn't feel the most aligned with over time. But it's just a
Mm-hmm.
reminder for us to really trust our instinct, our intuition when moving forward and kind of taking our health back into our own hands, because there is so many amazing individuals like yourself out there that are capable of providing educated information with a depth of experience as well.
And what I also think is fascinating about that too is that the trendiness of like health and wellness and also the spirituality aspect of it has been such a gift to be able to bring over the past couple of years, because now people are like, oh, so that's what you do. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then sometimes people will be like, wait, so do you do that too? And I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. Like, let's let's back up. Let's get back to the science of things. But I mean, I was even on a call with one of my clients yesterday, and she was like, I need to talk to you about this breathing thing that I've been doing with you for the past couple of years. And we talked about it and had about a 20-minute call or so. And she was like, I didn't realize there was so much science behind this. I thought everything was just woo woo. And I thought that was fascinating. Someone that I've been working with for quite some time, because everyone's journey is so different. And like, it takes so much time to not only grow your intuition again, because like we're all born so intuitive, listening to ourselves in different ways. But I'm a firm believer, as we grow up, we lose that if we're not using it. It's just like any skill set that we have. It's just like a language or riding a bike or swimming, whatever. It's like you never really lose it, but you kind of lose the skill set of it. And then you pick it back up as quickly as you can. And once you start to build that skill set again, it's fascinating how everything starts to really connect. And you realize that this health and wellness thing, it's not as trendy as we think it is. It's literally the core of how we function in our day-to-day life. So I'm glad the trendiness is happening, but then like more people I feel like are like, no, there's actually something more to this than just showing off the cold plunge that I did or whatever.
Absolutely. It's fundamental to our physiology, our biology, our neurology. And I love the science aspect that's coming online with so much of it, because I think it gives a lot of tangible data to those individuals that need more proof behind the pudding, so to say, which has been a great marriage, and I think has increased its popularity and will continue to, and why we're putting science to things that the ancients and the indigenous like people have been doing for thousands of years, and we just happen to kind of get off track a little bit, and now we're coming back online to these things that really mitigate, a lot of potential, it's a lot of preventative maintenance for our health on a number of layers, helps us take back our health into our own hands. And we're better with these practices reintegrated into our lives. I remember coming across something that said, like, I don't know if it was China or Japan, but one of them said that like the first couple years of kids like schooling is like teaching them how to be a human. And this might not be happening anymore, but it would be amazing to see that re-implemented. It was like their first class is like how to breathe and stuff. So we know how to breathe as a baby, right? If you watch like a baby's breath, it's breathing properly. And then we kind of unlearn how to breathe, and we just deem it important. We deem all these intellectual capacities more important than our biological nature. So we've kind of forgotten. So it'll be cool to see next generations of kids, more of them being raised with an understanding of that. And rather than, having to go away from it and then coming back, watching these children develop, because there's still plenty of them out there if their parents really were tuned in, but there was less parents probably tuned into that over the past, 50, 60 years than there will be, I think, moving forward.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's so funny with a lot of my friends, especially here in Dallas, and especially a lot of my guy friends, they'll be like, Emily, come on, why are people paying you to breathe? Like, really, you're monetizing breath at this point? They don't get it. And it's so funny because once I get them in, and then the feeling that they have after, they're like, that's not what I thought it was. And I'm like, there we go. Yes. But it's funny, as like you just explained, that's how I explain it to a lot of my newer clients, is like, we have this innate ability to know how to do these things, but then stress, anxiety, the bombarding of now social media, and just all of the stuff that we have to deal with in our day to day, our breath literally gets into like stuck in our throat, basically. And it's the process of bringing our body back to the foundation of where we are, literally coming back home, is the process of the breath to me.
Do you think we could maybe do like a quick 2 or 3 minute little breath practice
Let's
right
do
now?
it. Yeah, for sure. Let's do it. Okay, so we're going to do something called the big sigh breath, which is something that I absolutely love. what this sounds like is you're going to take a big deep breath in, and I'm going to have you focus on breathing into your lower belly, lower abdomen. So really focusing on almost pushing the breath out into your lower belly and also like your rib cage, I would like to say. And then you're going to take a second quick breath in at the top, and then you're going to take a big sigh breath out. So it's going to sound like this. Now, scientifically, what this breath does is that it brings us back into our parasympathetic part of our nervous system as quickly as possible. So we use a little bit of vagal toning to help attach the vagus nerve to soften as well, to get into that parasympathetic nervous system quickly. Close your eyes down with me. On your next inhale in, I want you to take a big deep breath into your low belly if you can here. Good. Take a second quick breath of air at the top. Open mouth, sigh out. Good. We'll do that 4 more times. Big deep breath in. Quick sip at the top. Sigh the breath out of your mouth. 3 more. Quick sip. Let it go. Good. Last 2. Big deep breath in, focusing on filling the belly, your rib cage. Then a tiny sip at the top. Let it go. Sigh the breath out. Good. Last one, just like that. Big deep breath, fill your belly, your ribs. Tiny sip at the top. Let it all go. Sigh the breath out. Whenever you're ready, tuck your chin down towards your chest, bringing your closed-eyed gaze towards the ground, and then gently blink your eyes open, welcoming yourself back.
Thanks so much, Emily.
Yeah.
I feel lighter. Mm-hmm. I feel clear and more grounded, certainly.
Good.
And I hope if you're in the audience, maybe you participated, maybe you were like, what the hell are they doing? But anyway, try it. If you're knocking it, try it. Yes. I swear it's so good. And I know this practice and I really love this breath, but I oftentimes just forget how available it really is. Like we get so into our day to day at work or something and we forget, you may not always want to do this at your desk, depending on who's around you. But if you're in your own office or you have a car, you can go outside and just try a couple of those. And it's amazing how quick it'll kind of influence your state and hopefully just give you a little more clarity or a little more ground to navigate the turbulent waters of life. Because like Emily said when we kicked off the podcast, life is challenging enough. So having these little tools in our toolkit can help us navigate it with so much more grace and presence.
Mm-hmm. No, and I will say even like that is a vagal toning exercise that we like to say, bringing activation into our voice while we're doing that. But I will say like so many of my clients that I have helped support getting off their anxiety medications or depression medications, just working with them with obviously a practitioner that they work with. But me being an additive source to them and getting them off their medications, they do these tiny, tiny things every single day, whether they're at their desk and they breathe in for the same count they breathe out, or they take a longer exhale. And, it's just the easiest things. They're very simple. Everything's simple, but that doesn't mean it's always easy to remember. And so that's kind of why, once again, I created the app so that, yes, you can do this yourself. But sometimes, are you going to do it?
And that's why I'm here. The app is called the Embody Edit, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so how is that kind of structured? You have like a breathwork portal. Is there like a mat Pilates section?
Yeah, exactly. So I have a breathwork edit, a meditation edit, and a Pilates edit right now. That's how it's set up. And so you can go on weekly I drop every week some classes And I'll do monthly drops as well, depending on how much is actually going on for people that I am aware of or that I'm working with one-on-one in Dallas. And I'll do monthly programs or a weekly drop of classes. And so every week you'll have new classes that you can go to, as far as anywhere ranging from 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, to upwards of like 45 minutes when it comes to breath work, meditation, Pilates, mindful movement, stretching, that type of thing.
Yeah, I'd love to talk a little bit more about Pilates specifically. Definitely a huge growing trend, especially with women out there. But I've seen other men in classes with me. I've predominantly done some reformer Pilates. Yours was my
Yeah.
first mat class, but I really enjoy it. But the question is, if Pilates could talk, what would it say to people who show up for the first time?
Take a moment, literally take a moment. So what really drew me to Pilates is I'm certified in like so many things under the sun. I'm yoga certified. I'm obviously breathwork meditation certified. I'm Pilates certified. I'm rebounder, so the trampoline, certified in that, certified in bar. Like, I'm certified in quite everything besides like personal training and nutrition at this point. And what I think is fascinating is that Pilates came to me because of its very controlled movements. Now, how I teach it, which you got to experience a little bit, Pilates has become obviously this huge trend in workout classes. And when you go into a Pilates class, you really don't know what you're getting into. You could be doing a high intensity sculpt class, which is incredible. We love that. It's super popular in Dallas. And then there's like very classical Pilates, where you can be on a really thick mat next to a reformer or a Cadillac and be doing the same series of about 20 exercises or so. Now, I try to bring contemporary, which is kind of the new style of Pilates, or kind of more fitness movements, kind of like bar and general fitness class movements, with Pilates. Now, once again, my foundation is the breath for everything. So when I went to my first mat Pilates class, what came to me was, oh, if I don't focus on my breath, I can't do this movement. And so how I teach my classes is, you have to focus on your breath to do this movement, because a lot of these movements can be very challenging. And I love the reformer. I'm getting certified in reformer in like 2 weeks. And I'm really excited about it because I've been on a reformer for the past, almost 7 or 8 years. Like, I've been taking classes way before it was popular because I love the classical movements of things. Now, reformer is incredible, but it can also help with bypassing some of the movements a little bit. For me personally, now when you're on the mat, you're using your entire body. Yes, you can use momentum to move in certain ways, but for me, like, I don't let you cheat that much in the classes. And so, once again, very slow, very controlled movements is how I teach my Pilates classes, which can be a little bit different to a lot of like the classes in DFW right now, which I do kind of love, because once again, I know I'm stressed. I have high anxiety. So I need to bring myself down so that I don't go into a workout class and I like freak the F out. I want to be able to walk out of my class very grounded, very controlled, knowing that I can move into the rest of my day in that same way that if I were to do a breathwork class.
Yeah, thanks for illuminating a little bit more about Pilates there. And something that I liked that you said when you taught that class that day was just thinking about the momentum in our bodies and how it's kind of, forgot exactly how you said it, but it's making the potential movement, or if you're especially doing weights, and where I applied it to like my strength training since then, even just with breath work and yoga and stuff, is you can easily, and you witness people in the gym all the time, like either lifting moderate weight or lifting really heavy weight, but they're just moving so fast. They're not breathing in tune. They're just pumping out reps. And to me personally, that's not the most quality rep. Like, if you're doing 5 with your breath really long, intentional, like slowing yourself down, is much harder than lifting a lot of weight really fast. What's funny, and I think you could speak to this too, is really how we show up to Pilates, or how we show up to a yoga class, or how we show up in the gym is really a mirror for how we show up in life. And it is actually easier to kind of just move fast, especially in the world we live in that perpetuates that, rather than slowing down and being more intentional. And it's funny what we can learn when we're aware enough to kind of observe ourselves in those practices.
No, and it's funny. That's what I think I speak to it ad nauseum in all of my classes at this point. And I know my clients probably are like, Emily, I've heard this a million times. You can like literally shut up at this point. But I'm always telling people, you have got to slow down. You need to slow down, because if I'm not telling you to slow down and you're not intentionally slowing down in your life, which I feel like a lot of us aren't. I mean, I slow down in my life. That's what I do for a living, is forcing people to slow down. Am I slowing down? No, absolutely not. Like, yeah, I mean, like practicing what I preach can be so difficult in some seasons. Like the past season of the past like 6 months or so of revamping this app and literally bringing it and traveling and doing all these pop-ups and things, I have been catching myself being like, haven't slowed down, haven't done my breathing like very like periodically or methodically like I have been. And so I am always a crazy person about telling people you need to slow down, because if you're not slowing down with me, are you slowing down at all? But once again, to speak to that, just like anything in life, if you do it slower, it's probably harder. And so do we want to do that? A lot of times we don't, because life is so fast. If you just quickly move through the movements, use momentum, then we're going to like get things done. But like you mentioned, is it going to be quality? Just like anything in life, whether it's projects, whether it's things with work, if it's relationships, whatever it is, like if we're just pushing, are we actually staying present with ourselves? Period.
Yeah, and like you said, even for yourself who are constantly preaching this, and for myself too, constantly need the reminder to myself, and constantly recalibrating, realize I'm moving too fast, I've got too many things going on, I need to step back a little bit. Then also sending that reminder, but it's so much just a part of our culture. But you know what, I like how you talked about your previous work with the corporate environment and stuff before you went into what you do now, because so many men and women are there, and it has been our past pattern of really just our economy and kind of the state of work up until I think 2020. And
Mm-hmm.
now we are beginning to see the paradigm shift in a big way, but there's like younger individuals like us that are starting to kind of recreate what that looks like. What does work-life balance look like? What does me and Katie Perkins, I think you know her, and
Mm-hmm.
a recent podcast guest on here. If you haven't seen her episode, go check it out. It's really great. A lot of similarities to this podcast with Emily, but we were just talking about sustainable entrepreneurship and giving ourselves permission to be entrepreneurs. And even if you're not an entrepreneur, if you just work at a business, like starting to find ways to do that work more presently and intentionally without just like being on this hamster wheel all the time. And we each have to find our own way of doing that. And it does take setting boundaries with ourselves, with others, with our employers and stuff. But I do think maybe 5 years from now, we'll look back and we'll see the benefits of sustainable entrepreneurship. The more and more we keep giving ourselves permission to slow down and we ripple that into society. I'd love to get your kind of
Mm-hmm.
perspective on that and where you think we could go as a culture and societally if we can embrace a more sustainable approach to our work.
Yeah, no, I totally and utterly agree with everything, and I can't wait to personally listen to Katie's podcast. But what I think is fascinating is that a couple years ago, I feel like this could be wrong, or it could just be like in my circle of people. When I was working, I would very much define myself as, oh, this is what I do for a living. This is where I spend my time. And that was who I am as a person. Now I feel like we're kind of treading on this new hamster wheel or new treadmill of, okay, well, I'm my own person. This is what I do for a living. This is what I'm passionate about. This is where I spend my time. These are my relationships. So we're opening ourselves up to more than just, this is my job title and this is what I do. And I feel like every time I'd walk into a conversation, it would be like, oh, so what do you do for a living? And it's like, that's how the conversation would start. And it's kind of like, well, what's going on with you and what are you passionate about? Like, what are you working on now? And I love the transition of that. And I feel like now I'm a firm believer we're all our own entrepreneurs, whether we are working on whether it's a passion project or have a business, or just like building a personal brand of where we want to spend our time and our energy now. Now that comes with obviously the social media aspect and building out our passion, things that we're passionate about and things like that, whether it's hobbies, whatever, spending time with friends, doing things just out in the world. But now it's kind of like we cannot live the way that we were living years ago. And we're really starting to understand that. And I think that's why, once again, speaking to the trends of health and wellness, of why they're coming into trend, but why I don't think they're going to go out of trend too. There might be certain tools or practices that come into popularity, like the cold plunges and the saunas and the contrast therapy. And I mean, all the crazy things that you can do now when it comes to building the bridge between technology and health and wellness together. But I only think that that is going to help us build more community in other places than just the workplace. Because I feel like over the past couple of years, the primary community that we've had have been people that we know from our past or our work community. And now it's like we need to find a third place, that people had so many years ago. And I really do feel like the community aspect of there's a lot of health and wellness entrepreneurs in Dallas that I am so lucky to be friends with, that they are building such great community, whether it's free classes in downtown Dallas or having pop-ups with brands or whatever, just to bring people together. And that's where I see this going, is building beautiful communities outside of the workplace. But that doesn't mean it's easy. Once again, it's a simple thought process, but it's, once again, how do we be our own entrepreneur, our own advocate of, okay, what do I love to do? Or how do I spend my time outside of the workplace to help ground me, to help calm me down, to maybe help blow off steam or enjoy life with people that I already know, or build a new community somewhere else, maybe in the same location, different community, different people. So that's where I really see this going, is having these communities. Because look at run clubs. I mean, the trajectory of run clubs over the past couple of years have been incredible to see, but not everyone runs, and that's not available to everyone. And if you're not a runner, it can be kind of tough. I mean, I've done a few run club things and I love it and I support the heck out of it. I have low back issues from playing tennis, and like, I can't run that much. Like, it doesn't feel good to me. But do I love the community? Love the people there. It's insane.
Isn't there something in Dallas called like the Hot Girl Walk or something?
Yes. Yeah. So I
Have you
love
been?
seeing that. No, I haven't been. I've been dying
What?
to
I feel
go.
like you'd be all over that.
I know. I was like, I gotta connect with the girls there. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it seems like it's gotten quite big.
Yeah. Well, and it's like prime example. I mean, even like the Datey on the Katy Trail, like I'm single right now. And so it's like, it's funny to see like a lot of my friends go to that. I mean, people are trying to build extra communities elsewhere, whether it's in the health and wellness space or dating or whatever. And I don't know, it's just really cool to see, because it's bringing the social aspect outside of the office, which I feel like we desperately need, because a lot of us haven't returned back to the office, or we're only going a few times a week, and working from home can be fairly isolating sometimes.
Yeah, and I want to point out a couple more things about what you just shared. I love that you highlighted community. It's a shared perspective. I feel like across a lot of guests I have on here, it truly is the ultimate medicine. All practices aside, getting a community that you are a part of is so supportive on so many levels. The practices are great, but like if you don't have a little place to go and feel like you fit in and you're supported in that, like it's really hard to navigate life and really step into a level of thriving, I would say. But also what you pointed out about how work has been so tied to identity. And it's true that past generations, it was more influential versus like late millennials. Their influence on that is much different. And then Gen Z, completely different than Gen X and baby boomers. And we can get a lot of heat from baby boomers and Gen X because they think we're just crazy and we're hippies and we're just like, we don't want to work as much and we don't work as hard as y'all and we want to make good money. And I'm constantly getting some feedback that's indirect about like, well, we used to work 60-hour weeks. Why aren't y'all working 60-hour weeks? And I'm like,
it's changing times. If we do what we've always done, we're going to get what we always got. So it's time to shift the paradigm, because what we're all after, I feel, is obviously at fundamental level to be loved, but to have quality time and to make memories with people we enjoy and we feel supported and inspired by. So if we work our whole life and we never get that much quality time, but we make a lot of money, you're missing out on all of this really goodness to life, this heart of life that a lot of other cultures outside of America are really still standing behind, partly due, or it's an influential factor in why they live so much longer, but also why they have quality in those years. So I think it's time, and we are doing this, to take a few pages from their books, rewrite our own script. We're doing that, especially millennials, Gen Z. It's really becoming a formative movement. There's still a lot more work to do, and we got to shake through kind of the uncomfortable phases of judgment and people thinking it's not going to work. But we have a family business that I'm a part of, and that's kind of what I do full time. And injecting a lot of the stuff that me and Emily have talked about here today, just fostering culture and really like truly trying to foster culture, not just doing it for the corporate benefits and kind of the PR of it, but actually truly getting in the lives of your people that work for you. We have seen how that has drastically improved our business on so many different levels. And last year we got top 10 Fort Worth employers to work for. This year we got revoted for another nomination. So super excited about that. But it's through applying these things we've been talking about here into the business space and actually working little less hours. We get off at Friday at 3:30, but we're seeing more profitability and more revenue come in our business. So there's something behind all of this.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. And all I was thinking as you were speaking was something that I was told a while ago. And I wish I could remember who told me that, but it was like, listen to your body when it whispers, not when it's screaming, of like needing that support, that help, because I feel like in the past, it's like, okay, we just work until we burn out and then we start that cycle again. And it's like having people in place to help lead that charge of like, wait, no, like your physical and your mental health is way more important. So let's put that at the forefront. Let's make that a priority so that then everything, just like you mentioned earlier, it's a ripple effect in everything else. And it's like, if we can take care of our people, then like everything's going to grow how it needs to, like everything's going to work out, but we got to take care of our people first. And that's amazing. So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And what I see is like, can you put feeling metrics, right? Like health, wellness, physical, mental, ahead of sales metrics? And for a lot of companies, it's not necessarily plausible, at least from their paradigm. But truly, when you do that, obviously this is important. This is what keeps our economy going. But when you do that, the people that show up for those metrics, it just honestly magnetically, I think it's very much connected to the law of attraction. When you're grounded and you feel better and you feel loved and you feel supported. And I'm also partial to plants in offices. Like we need live plants in offices. Like you can have a few plastic ones, but get real plants and start taking care of them at your house or in your office space, because there's so many benefits, just the purity of the air, just even seeing the color green and how it has the ability to regulate our nervous system, because we are beings of nature and we've been staring at the earth for longer than we've been staring at computer screens. Like I have to remind myself all the time, but I recently got a little thing called a moss lab. Have you seen those?
Okay. Yes, but not in person. I've never seen one in person.
So I got one and it's at my desk. It's not right here where I'm at, but you refill it with water and it draws air through it and the moss purifies it. And then it shoots out like a little, and it's also like a humidifier. So it cleanses the air and then it smells really nice. And then you can just kind of take a look off of your computer and stare at the moss for a little while. People are always coming to my office, like wanting to look at it and just enjoy it. But I was like, yes, like this moss lab, these are great little like hacks for your desk space or your workspace, whether at home or at work, that I think can bring a lot more quality to our lives and our workplace.
Mm-hmm. Which is like, I love having something physical where you can see it and have that physical reminder. Because once again, like we've talked about once again ad nauseum, is like how we have to like slow ourselves down and we have to remind ourselves. And it's really hard to do that. So I love that. That paired with a little bit of breath work while you're working. Hello, we're here for
Yes,
it.
we're on the trajectory to do more like breath work and kind of like yoga and things like that with our team at the office. I've done a few yoga classes for our team. I've had a few external people come and do them. A lot of people are very interested, but it's also not to the full point to where like Wednesdays at lunchtime we have like a yoga class yet, but I kind of want that, and there is people that want that as well. But it's fun to have a experiential kind of workplace to really try these things on, because I think it's definitely part of the new paradigm that we're moving into. So super blessed to have my family business and that kind of training ground for me, because who knows, I don't know where I'm going to continue to go, but I love Live Thrivingly podcast and health and wellness and improving the quality of our lives, and that journey to that, hearing stories like your own, being inspired by guests that come on here, by people I meet that enjoy this podcast, that enjoy my other work. Yeah, it's just nice to be around people like yourself, Emily, that have gone through trials and tribulations, have risen from them, and have taken your health and wellness and your life into your own hands, and really, obviously, I'm sure not without faith and things like that can ultimately be the ultimate influence, but it's amazing to see what can happen, and it's nice to be around inspiring individuals like yourself.
No, I totally agree. And it's amazing to hear that small businesses are doing and really focusing on the things that y'all are, because I've been so lucky to work with big corporate companies that are doing exactly what you're trying to do. And so it's happening. It might be a little slower than we want it to be, but that's, like you have mentioned, it's the new paradigm, which I feel like is really a gift for all of us in kind of the state of the world. Because if we can take care of ourselves, start living a little bit more in alignment with where we all want to go, then I think beautiful things are going to come from that for sure.
Yes, and you pointed out a great tenet, which is patience, and it can be hard for us, especially ambitious ones. But really, when we look back, we're always really, I'm sure you're like really, impacted by like, wow, where I was 5 years ago versus now. And when you're looking ahead another 3 and 5, it can be daunting and be like, I don't know where I'm going to be at. But when you just show up day to day, make it sustainable. We don't have to do it all at once. We can't do it all at once. We can't eat the elephant in one bite, but we show up for ourselves. We show up for our communities and just put one foot in front of the next. We look back and we're like, wow, how far have we really come?
Yeah. And I will say in my classes a lot, I'll speak to the consistency of things, but consistency doesn't mean 100%, like showing 100% of the time every single day. If you only have 10% to give that 10%. If you have 30% one day, try to give your best 30%. It doesn't have to be go hard, force, push. It can be, no, the way I need to show up today is taking a few breaths and maybe taking a nap, even if I don't have the time to, or figuring it out. And I love that. Everything takes time, but everything worthwhile is the thing that is really the thing that takes the best time ever, truly, I will say.
So, as we come to a close here, I always like to ask my guests, when you hear the phrase live thrivingly, how do you interpret this? What does this mean to you, Emily?
To me, it's waking up, being in alignment as much as possible with what you desire to do with your life. Now, that's not just, once again, kind of rushing or running or surviving the days. It's how can we start to take the steps to get to where we want to be, even if we're not where we are or where we want to be now. But finding the things that you're passionate about, finding that deeper purpose, You may not know what that is now. I didn't know what that was until about 2021, until I had my dark night of the soul in 2020 and had to find things, thank goodness, through the community of finding the breath work. But how can you wake up every day and be yourself, truly, not what you should have to show up as, not what you have to do? I think living thrively is truly how can you come back to your core center and live from that.
Beautiful answer, Emily. Thanks so much for sharing. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about where folks can find you, and a little about your offerings.
Yeah, for sure. So I have a website called the Embody Edit. That's also an app as well in the Apple App Store, thank goodness. I also have an Instagram, which is my name, Emily Dewberry. Also Instagram, the Embody Edit. We're not on TikTok that much just yet. That's a whole nother monster for me personally. But I'll be launching my podcast called Breath Sessions around September time-ish. And that will be very similar, but also very different than this one. So it'll be exciting to see where all of those things go.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Emily. If you're familiar with her already, you know how much of a light Emily is. And I really look forward to continuing our friendship and just seeing how this new podcast comes out for you, how the Embody Edit evolves as an app, and just all the lives that it's going to help change and help shift towards that thriving state.
Jackson, you're the best. Thank you so much for having me on. This was truly such a gift to be able to connect via all of this craziness that the world is in right now. So thank you for having me again, truly.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Live Thrivingly podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Hall, and I hope you found inspiration and valuable insights to help you thrive in both your personal and professional life. Remember, the journey to living thrivingly is one step at a time, and we're here to walk that path with you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with someone who could benefit from these conversations. For more resources and updates, be sure to visit my website at livethrivingly.com or visit my social media page at Instagram at livethrivingly. And as always, continue to live thrivingly because you deserve to live a life full of purpose, vitality, and joy. Until next time, take care and keep thriving.